Happy HBK Wellness Wednesday, everyone. Master trainer and wellness enthusiast, Kiona Leah. Back with you guys again. And this week we are doing Energy Camp. And believe it or not, Energy Camp was inspired by a lack of energy of yours truly and some others last week here in the ridiculous, sweltering, oppressive heat and humidity in the DC metro area. So I thought that one of the big, huge energy robbers that I haven't talked about yet is heat. And how do we stay safe, keep ourselves cool to preserve our energy and some other things when we're in the heat? So we're going to talk on several different things that touch on that today. Now, you guys already know I talked about, and I'll link it to this video, I talked about in previous Wellness Wednesdays, exercise and energy endurance using palm of the hand, face, and foot cooling. All of these things still really apply, and they are some of my favorite new techniques, thanks to Dr. Andrew Huberman, that I use when I start getting overheated or worried about heat at all. So think about those, but let's talk about a couple other things. Now, first and foremost, if you can avoid exercising out in the heat on days like this, try and do that. But that's not always possible. I was thinking of this with our mailman the other day when I saw him walking around, having to deliver mail from house to house to house to house, carrying that bag, carrying that box. And one of the things he had was he had a towel draped over his head. This is to help to some degree with the heat, to keep the sun off of his head, to keep the sun from beating down and heating up his head. Now, personally, I have a little bit cuter option, and I have a little hat that helps do that. It also helps keep the sun off my shoulders. So now there's some shade on me as I'm walking around. The downside to this is that your head does help release heat to some degree, and now the hat, or his towel in that case, are holding that in. So I don't tend to wear my hat very often when it's super, super, super hot. As much as I like the shade that it casts on me, I opt instead for this. Now the top of my head can still stay exposed to the sun, which means it can release heat, but I still end up having, and it's got a little cord to help it from getting lost. I bought this to go whitewater rafting, so I wanted to make sure it didn't get lost. But it still casts a nice shadow over my face and a little bit out onto my shoulders. Notice it's got an extra wide brim, as opposed to my old visors that were only about half the size if I was lucky. This really helps keep my face cool. Remember, that's one of our places that we can cool from is our face. So if I keep the sun off my face, it helps keep me cooler. It also allows me, I can pull my ponytail through and my hair is not touching me as much. Again, of course, I'm sure most of us with long hair know one of the first things we can do to cool ourselves off is to get that hair up off your neck and off your back. It holds in a lot of heat. Great to know in the winter, which is why I wear my hair down a lot more in the winter, and why you guys always see me with my hair up for all these workout videos, because it helps keep me cooler. But the double whammy of those, now I have this extra shade, I have a little shade here, can make a big difference as well. So that is one of my go-to things. However, it's still padded, it's still against my forehead, and it's still holding heat around this area. On super hot days, that might not be the best thing. So a lot of times I just opt for one of these rather than wearing it the way I have right now, because one of my biggest problems is sweating off my forehead. I'll actually pull it down and I'll put it under my bangs like this. Now remember, the sweating mechanism in your body is very, very, very specific. The way humans self-cool is when we start to get too hot, the body produces sweat. The evaporation of that sweat off your body is what cools you off. It's that evaporation process. However, here on the East Coast, when you live in a freaking swamp practically, or for those that do live in actual swamps like Florida or Louisiana, You guys know what I'm talking about. Humidity does not allow for that evaporation process to happen. This is one of the reasons why we hear about the heat index on our eastern and more swampy type states. Actually, the whole eastern seaboard and pretty much anything east of the Mississippi and maybe even beyond that has a heat index for that exact reason. Because we want to know, how well is my body going to cool? So while it may be hotter in California at 104 degrees than it is in Maryland at 97, it may not feel that way. It may feel exactly the same. It may feel worse. You never know. That's not to say that that dry heat isn't extremely, extremely dangerous, because one of the things about the body is we have a much smaller range of high temperatures that we can hit than low temperatures we can hit. So keep that in mind. That's part of why the best we can do, stay in the shade, stay as relaxed as possible. Obviously, if we have a pool or can go in the water, if we have to be outside, all of these things are ideal, or stay inside in that air conditioning. Now, a couple other things though to help with that as well. One of my personal favorites, and was something that was taught to me by one of my first dance teachers, is always carry one of these, a fan. Now, I know that people will argue. In fact, my friend did this on Friday night when I suggested he fan himself with his cowboy hat when he was hot. Am I expending more energy doing this than I'm cooling myself? Remember, the face is a place of cooling. If you're fanning your face and cooling your face, more of the body is cooling. So even if you are expending those calories, it may still be super beneficial for you to do that. Now, when it comes to fans, there's lots of options out there. I'm going to share a few with you guys so you can think about what you want to get if you're going to get a fan like this. Of course, you can get a handheld battery operated one that just blows on you. That's even less. Personally, I found they didn't fit in my purse as well, and they weren't as light to carry around, and I always needed new batteries. Now, this is a bamboo fan right here. One of the things that you can see with this, and I'll bring it a little closer, is you can see there's holes in it. Its entire job is to move air. With holes in it, it moves less air. Also notice the size of the fan. It's about 10 inches long, which means it moves a certain amount of air, but it's not super efficient at it. If I take a fan that is exactly the same length, but now this fan has fabric here, this moves more air because air is not going through those little holes. So as much as when I started dancing, I loved my bamboo fans. They were gifts to me from several people. They smell absolutely amazing and wonderful. So you fan yourself and you get this little whiff of bamboo. It's just fantastic. But these move a lot more air when you use them. So they cool you off significantly faster as a result of that. We want to keep that in mind because they make lace fans. Don't they look pretty? Even though this fan is bigger. So if we look at this fan, this is a 12-inch fan versus this little guy. This fan still moves about the same amount of air because of the fact that the lace lets more air through. Now, this fan actually has some backing, but it's still mesh. It's not a super solid fabric to keep that air from moving. So again, while this fan is beautiful, it doesn't do as effective a job. However, if we really, really want to get serious, and for years I used to get teased about getting serious, you really want a big fan. This is a full-blown 16-inch fan. And notice that it is solid. It is a solid polyester silk, which means air does not get through this thing at all. Now, I decorated this one for the Ren Fair, but this fan moves a lot of air. It not only cools my face, but it will actually cool my entire chest as well because of the size with very little movement. So do I think I'm getting more cooling than I am expending calories using this? Absolutely. Feathers are extra, just so you know. I did add them myself to make it pretty, but the most important thing is that it is solid silk or polyester all the way through. They're not super expensive, and you can get these in multi-packs if you like. Makes a huge, huge, huge difference. Now, at the Ren Fair, they do sell fans made out of feathers. I would not spend that kind of money to move that little air, because those feathers are very much just like this bamboo. And they're extremely, extremely expensive. That's part of why I actually opted to make a fan like this myself and add feathers to something that was super solid. Because if you think that being outside in your shorts and your tank top is hot on a 90-degree day, try adding a couple skirts and a corset and go out on a 90-degree day. Part of why I know so much about how to keep cool and use these different fans is because of going to those Ren fairs. But I wouldn't trade it. Now, last but not least, when we are in the heat, we have to make sure we stay hydrated. That is extremely, extremely important. You got to remember you are sweating, even if it doesn't feel like it's evaporating off of you. It is still, that's why we say we're pouring buckets, because it'll drip off of you if it can't evaporate off you. It knows what it's doing. You're going to keep sweating, which means you need to replenish that. But you want to think about the fact that when you replenish that, you can't just use pure water, because your sweat is not pure water. It's water and electrolytes and minerals and other substances that are coming out. You actually will sweat out some toxins as well, other things coming out of your body. So you can't just drink pure water. In fact, drinking high amounts of pure water when you're sweating like crazy and you're exposed to extended amount of heat can actually cause worse heat stroke, cardiac arrhythmias, and all kinds of other majorly serious problems, because you've now washed all the electrolytes out of your body. Those electrolytes help your nervous system regulate, look at your temperature of the body itself, send signals to the brain, to the heart, to the lungs, and all the organ systems of the body. So you better make sure that you have electrolytes going in. Now, you can use products like this or this. This is a powder, dissolves super fast. You can pop it in that water right away. These are little pills. They take a little longer to dissolve, but they have less sugar. That's one of the things about sports drinks and other things of that nature you got to be careful with. A lot of times they have a lot of sugar. Now, like my guy who was out for a 4-hour bike ride in 97-degree weather on Saturday morning / afternoon, you want that. You need that sugar to keep your body powered. But if you're not, if you're just say out at the beach or out on a more gentle walk or whatever, you don't want that extra sugar. It's going to go right here, and right here. So make sure that you're focusing on things without that extra sugar. That's why I'm not a huge fan of Gatorade and things like that. I also am not a fan of the food colorings in those either. You can also literally just throw salt in your water. Not a lot. In about a quarter water, quarter to a half a teaspoon of sea salt, Himalayan salt, or even table salt. Toss it in there. That's going to help replenish you. Doesn't taste great, but you can do it. Some of my other favorite things are fruits. One of my go-to fruit when it gets to be this time of year and it's this bad is watermelon out of my fridge. As soon as I get back inside, I will gobble up 3 or 4 or 5 pieces of watermelon right away. Watermelon is high in minerals. It does have a lot of sugar in it. That's why it's a seasonal fruit, but it really replenishes and recharges the body on all levels. It's one of my favorite go-to snacks while I'm doing anywhere from 2 to 5 hours of yard work on any given hot, ridiculous Saturday here in Maryland. So those are lots of different ideas to help you stay cool or cool yourself back off when you've been out exposed to that energy draining heat, zapping it out of you. All right, you guys, what else do you guys want to work on? This coming Monday is Final Monday freebie. Make sure and sign up. Come figure out and check out our class, 7 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time on Monday. We would love to have you. You can figure out and look at what this workout looks like, how we help increase our energy while working out and through a workout on its own. But I never have good topic ideas from then. We already have 2 weeks from now planned. We're doing lower body work. So I've got some great foot fitness things that I'm going to share with you guys. Something I learned from Dr. Matt, my chiropractor, last Friday. But I have no topic for next week. Let's talk. Comment below. or direct message me and let me know what you guys want to talk about. And in the meantime, I'm Keona Leah. I want to see you move, live, and thrive. So I'll see you on the next one.